Now let's talk about the past week's elections. KPRC political analyst, former Harris County Judge Ed Emmett, and Dr. Michael Adams, chair of the Texas Southern University Political Science Department, are here. We were here together this past Tuesday. We watched in amazement, really, about the incredible lines at some of those voting centers. Now that the dust has settled, what's your reaction to that? And other than it just can't continue to be that way. What's your reaction to it now that we've had a chance to think about it a little bit?
I think that's the bipartisan reaction. We need to do elections better in Harris County, and hopefully lessons will be learned and we'll move forward. We need to stop the finger pointing and just learn how to run elections more efficiently.
It was a black eye.
It certainly was. And at Texas Southern University, I think the last ballot was cast in the wee hours of the morning, 1 o'clock. And certainly with that community, in terms of, you know, the whole notion in terms of we go back to the 1965 Voting Rights Act and to make sure that we avoid things where people can make the allegation, it wasn't a good look in terms of countywide.
Who takes the lead on trying to make sure that this doesn't happen? I noticed some people on the commissioner's court talked about it. I had some quotes about them, but who's got to take the lead on this?
The county clerk is responsible. That's who has to own it at the end. And that's why I say the finger pointing needs to stop. Everybody, both parties need to get together and figure out how to do this better in the future. It makes no sense to have equal number of voting machines for Democrats and Republicans at a Texas Southern University polling place.
That's right.
And the Republican Party said that even. So everybody just needs to say, okay, this was bad. Let's figure out how to do it better in the future.
And I think just a simple cursory view in terms of the data analytics, in terms of election returns, we could have known in terms of the number of machines. And this whole thing, and certainly I'm an administrator for a public administration program, I think we may have to look, and I think the judge has mentioned before, in terms of having a kind of election administrator, you take that out. And voting is so important, so why not do it in a professional way?
Yeah, let me give you a quick example. The county hires a county engineer to run that department. We need to have an election administrator that's a professional to run the elections. They can report to the county clerk, but we need a professional in there.
All right, well, we hope that will start to happen, or something will happen to make sure we don't have that kind of optic, because it was not a good sight. Right. From the votes themselves, what the races stood out to you as one of the biggest surprises, other than maybe the presidential, but what stood out for you this past week?
Well, just looking at the turnout overall, and you know, it was a big turnout. I understand it was probably the 4th largest combined turnout in the state in quite a while. That's a good thing. That's encouraging. But let me give you one little tidbit from the Democrat side that I found very interesting. There were 21 judicial races from state Supreme Court all the way down to district courts, in which it was a contest between men and women. Women won all 21 of them with at least 60% of the vote.
Surprise.
Well, it's just an interesting tidbit to look at. Women clearly were dominant.
We're surprised at how the margin how Biden, not only here but all over, the way he performed this past Tuesday.
Well, I think it was given the bounce in terms of Biden certainly coming out of South Carolina, and I think that propelled him into a good showing. And a lot of the voters who didn't vote early, they were waiting, and certainly they got that when they saw it on election day. And I think he did a great job. And on the other hand, I think Sanders could have done better in terms of actually trying to mobilize or message to reach voters outside of Hispanics or some of the progressive. But so African Americans, they certainly turned out in favor of Biden.
Now, we were paying a lot of attention to a number of different races on Tuesday night, including the 22nd in Fort Bend, which is shocking what happened there. That Biden, is the way he came and was able to do what he was able to do is one thing. Down ballot might be impacted down the road if he is, in fact, the nominee going forward. This presidential contest by itself is going to be tremendous down ballot impact, don't you think?
Oh, there's no question that the dynamics are completely different in November if Bernie Sanders is the nominee versus Joe Biden. I think there are a lot of Democrats in Texas heaving a sigh of relief right now that it looks like Joe Biden's going to be the nominee.
Do you think that Troy Nehls, the way he was able to win outright in that district?
He didn't win outright. There's still technically a runoff. But, yeah, he got, what, over 40% of the vote. That's a strong showing, and likewise Wesley Hunt in CD7
Yes.
came through with a very strong showing. And I think what that really tells us is that the Republicans really want to get together early behind candidates that they think can win.
Right.
The process, that's a trend, is it not?
It seems to be a trend in terms of recruiting people and diversity within the Republican Party, and I think you see that. And also, given you look at Lindsay Fletcher, they think that she may be vulnerable. So certainly, I think those are the kinds of moves. And in this particular case, the candidate was endorsed by President Trump. So we'll see in terms of whether those coattails are long enough. Right.
Let's talk about the Democrat Senate race against John Cornyn. As expected, MJ Hager, who had money and some momentum, she was able to go ahead and win, or at least lead that so far. Royce West, number 2 there. Christina Ramirez, 13.2. Annie Garcia, 10.3. Former City Councilwoman Amanda Edwards also was 10%, but out of that. Is this race going to be competitive, or is John Cornyn just too big of a juggernaut?
I think it's going to be an interesting primary, and Senator West has a good chance of winning that. And if you look at the primary election, I think he and Senator West and Amanda Edwards were going after the same base. And so I think Roy runs more or less as a kind of moderate campaign, although MJ Hager, she comes out in terms of her war veteran experience. But I think Senator West has a great chance of winning that. Now, what didn't play, we can talk about some of the other things in terms of the whole progressive element. I think Congressman Henry Cuellar was reelected, and so that wing of the Democratic Party, and certainly it didn't impact on some of these elections. And I think what we see emerging in Senator West is more of a moderate tone.
What do you think, final thought about the political climate in the months ahead, the tone that we can expect with what's already starting to happen right now?
Nobody can like the tone that's been around for a couple of years, and I suspect we'll just see more and more of that going forward, which is unfortunate.
You think it's going to do anything to increase the voter turnout or dampen it down?
Well, I think it's important. We have to go back to the Democratic side. We had 21 candidates, a very diverse field. And now we have standing in terms of 2 Anglo males, septuagenarians, and a third person who would be the Republican candidate. And so I think the issues should be there, but the way they should be framed, if the Democrats are really serious to try to gin up that support, drive the enrollment in terms of the voter turnout increase, and that's going to be very important to the party.
I think the turnout's going to be very large, and if you look at the fact that more Republicans voted in the primary in Texas than Democrats, even though there wasn't a presidential race, what that tells us is that the Republicans are energized. And I think Bernie actually helped energize the Republicans, because they thought, well, if this is going to be that kind of year, we're going to go vote.
Right. Well, it worked. The messaging was that stop the socialists, and so that kind of caught on. So thank you, Judge. Appreciate you so much for your input and insight all the way around. Dr. Adams is going to stick around here for a little bit. We're going to be joined by Carole Robinson to talk about a study that they authored about the black millennial, a report on millennials and the voting during the time when, quite frankly, the black vote is playing a big part in Democratic politics. When Houston